Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege for me to be speaking at this Unstuck Conference because we all need to get unstuck. And that's where I start. Do you feel stuck where you are? Are you feeling like you're making no progress? Like you're trapped? Perhaps making movement but no progress? Going around the same place over and over again. All thunder and no rain. Much heat, but no light to illuminate our way forward. And meanwhile, getting older because time waits for no man or woman. You're probably in great company. There are many people in your exact position, just that their rut, R-U-T, is somewhere else. We have a great example of people who felt exactly the same way, despite the fact that God had a great plan for them. In the Old Testament, in the book of Deuteronomy, we encounter the children of Israel under the leadership of Moses, no less, stuck in several ruts at different times. In Deuteronomy chapter 1, from verses 1 to 8, we read about this stuckness of theirs. Indeed, when you look at verse 1 of Deuteronomy chapter 1, we find the following words. And this is Moses relating to the Israelites. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel in the wilderness east of the Jordan. That is in the Arabah, opposite Sophar, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab. And in parentheses, it says, it takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir road. Goes on to say in verse 3, in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month. In other words, although I said it takes 11 days, they had been there for 40 years. I'll jump to verse 6. The Lord our God said to us at Horeb, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. And again, further down, see, I have given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land the Lord swore he would give to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to their descendants after them. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 2, starting from verse 1. Then we turned back. That's again Moses speaking. And further down the same verse, verse 1b, for a long time we made our way around the hill country of Seir. Verse 2 of chapter 2. Then the Lord said to me, that's Moses speaking again, you have made your way around this hill country long enough. Now turn north. And it goes on to describe how they continued moving around the desert. And in verse 14, we see 38 years passed from the time we left Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered Valley. By then, he says, the entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp as the Lord had sworn to them. The Lord's hand was against them until he had completely eliminated them from the camp. Here was a group of Israelites who, because of disobedience and not trusting God, had managed to prolong an 11-day journey and turn it into a 40-year journey. Talk of being stuck. Twice God indicated to them that they had overstayed in the same place and they needed to make some progress. They were stuck going round and round the same place. And that's why we read, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. Again, chapter 2, verse 3, you have made your way around this hill country long enough. Now turn north. Twice God provokes them into some action. He tells them to break camp, advance. Now go north, make some progress, get moving, take your position. You know what to do. Now do it. Moses records again, as we read, we turned back and for a long time we made our way around this country. Are you starting to feel like I am stuck myself on these verses? I probably am, and I'm making the point. These people are truly, well and truly stuck, like many of us might actually feel. Again, an 11-day journey was turned into a 40-year journey. Yet you might feel like them. And in fact, we may feel like we are exactly where we were last year. The same job which we don't like, the same house which makes us not want to go home, live alone, work from home in COVID days, same friends who make you wonder if it would be any worse to have some enemies, dreams turning into nightmares for lack of progress, getting numb from waiting, nothing happening, vision getting stale for lack of action. Break camp, advance, turn north is what we are here to say today, because stagnation is not an option. Progress is what is prescribed and what the doctor ordered. Our theme today is moving from potential to performance, and Pastor Angie has done a good job of talking us through that. But we want to ask ourselves, really, what is potential, which are moving from to go to performance? Potential is having or showing the capacity to develop into something in the future. Potential is also latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness. We say of a person that they have potential to mean that they have the necessary abilities or qualities to become successful or useful in the future. And herein lies the problem in that definition. The future. The trouble is that the future is undefined. This afternoon is the future, as is tomorrow, as is next week, next year, and next decade. However, implied in the theme of this conference is that we do have people who have the potential to have extraordinary impact, to make great achievements, and to have profound success. And that the future we are talking about should for them and for us start now. But they have not made any steps towards it. Indeed, the theme scripture says just as much. There's something we were crafted to do. We know the person who should do it. It is you or me. The work is known because it was prepared for us to do. But there remains a gap between the doer and the deed. And the two are not gelling. The person designed and destined to do such work is not mixing well with the task. The result is that the work remains undone and the person remains unfulfilled and perhaps even frustrated. It remains in the realm of possibility that the person designed to do the work could do it, and perhaps they will. But that, for some reason, is not happening. In such a person, we wonder whether such a person is doing things they ought to do, not to be doing, and leaving undone things they ought to be doing, as we used to pray in the confession from the Anglican prayer book. Are they in the wrong place? Are they in the wrong town, the wrong country, the wrong industry? Are they unaware of what they should be doing? Are they just procrastinating or simply not caring? What is it that needs to happen as a trigger to achievement? We trust that in the next few minutes, we will discover some steps we need to take to move from potential to actual performance. A story is told out of Greek mythology of a man called Sisyphus. For some unforgivable sin he committed against the Greek gods, specifically for cheating death a couple of times, he was condemned to an eternity of punishment through unfruitfulness. He was given the most tiring of tasks with no result. He was condemned to an eternity of rolling up a huge boulder up a hill. So day after day, through rain and sunshine, he would push up this boulder up the steep hill painstakingly, making slow and painful progress up to just about the top of the hill. And upon reaching there, the rock would roll right back to the bottom of the hill, from where he would go and start rolling it up all over again. This he would repeat from day to day, every day, week in, week out, from year to year, days without end. What a punishment. The punishment of excruciating non-achievement and unproductivity. You probably feel like Sisyphus sometimes. There are many people who feel this way. And if you're one of them, you are in great company. You're not the first to be stuck, and you will certainly not be the last. But we would wish that every person attending this conference considers themselves to have completed their stuck time and be ready to now move on to their impact through performance. To be clear, Having potential is not a bad thing. Indeed, potential is important because it is the starting point. A person without potential is hopeless and devoid of any expectation and has no future. However, what will determine greatness and impact is not having potential, but what one does with the potential. Potential prepares a way to walk. Potential opens a door we must enter. Potential extends the invitation we must accept. Potential is not the party. It is the invitation card to the party. Potential is not salvation. It is the altar call. It is a declaration like Barack Obama, yes, we can. But it begs the rejoinder, yes, you can, but will you? And invites the remark, show, don't tell. We all need the potential that God has placed in us. It is his gift to us to achieve and attain our purpose in life. It is his assurance to us that unlike other people tell us, we can amount to something, to a lot. Yes, we can. That we are built for performance, that we are customized for the terrain. We are built for the ruggedness of this life. Like Jesus steelily faced the cross and walked towards it, potential points us to purpose and counsels us to walk towards it unrelentingly and unswervingly. But potential really is only that, a future achievement, a possibility, and it can come in many forms. It may be the books that can be written, the campaign to be run and won, perhaps even next year in Kenya, the companies that must be incorporated, the employment that can be created, the buildings yet to stand, the territories to be conquered, the souls to be won, the losses in business to be made, the tax breaks to be taken advantage of, the listings of companies on the Securities Exchange, the banks to be owned, the housing developments to be set up, the cities to be planned and created, the marriages to be celebrated, the baths to be ululated, the gyms to be joined and attended consistently, the missionary journeys to be undertaken, the vaccines to be developed, the jobs to be performed with excellence, the long lives to be lived fruitfully, the countries to be governed, and the glowing epitaphs to finally be written, and the welcome to heaven when old, tired, and fully worn, we cross the veil. But how tragic it would be if that crossing of the great valley should come when potential is yet unrealized, still intact. And that is what makes cemeteries, especially in Africa, the richest places on earth, because they hold all the above listed things and tasks when they remain undone and people come to the end of their lives. It is important to remember that potential is not productivity. It is not productive, active, or patent. It is inert. We are not created for potential. Potential is created for us. We are created for productivity, for purpose. And we see this both in the planning of man's creation and upon it. In Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28, the Bible records, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth, From the beginning, it's evident, even before God created us, and when he created us, that God intended for man to have dominion, fruitfulness, multiplication, subduing. These are all performance, active words that need positive action. Now, we have sometimes mistaken this entire mandate and narrowed it to population increase. Indeed, for some people, especially some men, you have to remind them that God commanded that we fill and subdue the earth and not their own houses. For others, you have to remind them that this command is to the whole human race and not to some individual men who take it upon themselves to populate the earth. This mandate is much, much more than the production of children and increase of families, important as that is. Indeed, it envisages the increase of productive people, actively engaged in bringing the earth and all creation under man's dominion and authority to the glory of God. It is noteworthy that to no other part of creation was such a wide productivity mandate given except to man. The birds and the fish were commanded to increase in number and rule their respective spheres, but only man was given the mandate to be fruitful and multiply and subdue and have dominion over all creation. The broad dominion and productivity mandate was given to nobody but man. The command is potential. The productivity and establishment of dominion is performance. For some of us who might think that Genesis is the Old Testament of the Old Testament, we need to be reminded that Jesus himself, our Lord, was very alive to the issue of productivity, the exercise of potential. And we see this in John 15, 2, 4, 5, 8, and 16. And because of time, I'll not read all of it, but just to highlight a few things, he says, verse 2, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, the need for productivity. While every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful, the importance of fruitfulness. Verse 4, no branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine, important to bear fruit. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me, he says. Verse 5, if you remain in me and I in you, you'll bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And it goes on and on. Verse 8, he says, this is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourself to be my disciples. Verse 16, you did not choose me, but I chose you, appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give to you. So we see again and again, Jesus talks about us bearing fruit. So we are called indeed to be performers, to be fruitful, to have dominion over the earth, to realize potential. And as I understand it, many of us have gone through the process of identifying purpose. And hopefully, before clarifying purpose, we have clarified our own identity. Identity which seeks to answer the question, who am I? And then, whose am I? And once you identify that, then you ask, what am I here for? And find purpose. There's no person I've ever known whose purpose does not require productivity through performance. Whether your purpose, like mine, is to be a clarifier, or to be a teacher, a vision caster, an innovator, a mentor, an entrepreneur, or whatever else you discover your purpose to be, each and every one of these purposes require performance. And so, my hope today is that we can look at a few practical steps that we need to make to help us actually start the journey of impact to the realization of potential. If you know me well, you know that I will say whatever we learn today must start today to move from the present state of potential to performance. So I want to share a few practical steps, as many as time will allow, for us to start moving today from potential to performance. And I want to start number one. And number one of title is scribble it down. Please write down what you want to do, what you want, why you want to do it, how you hope to do it, with whom you want to do it, when you hope to do it, also where, if location matters. Write what you want to achieve and what success in it would look like. A few weeks ago, perhaps many of you saw a picture which was circulating in social media and online, with a comment that during the recent South African riots, everything in a certain mall was looted except a bookshop. The picture was indeed of a thoroughly looted mall, with the bookshop still completely intact. The point being made was that Africans do not read, and that nobody saw any need to loot a bookshop. Correspondingly then, Africans shouldn't write because nobody will read. Now, I don't know if the story was true. I don't know whether the picture was photoshopped. It may well not have been, but I do know that Africans have been accused for long of not being readers. Indeed, somebody went on as far as to say that if you want to hide something from an African, you should put it in a book. I don't know about other continents, but that's a story, an accusation we face. But let's debunk that myth. We read and we write. For now, I'm suggesting that the first practical step to move from potential to performance is to write down what you see as a dream you have and which you want to move with from the position of dream to actualization. It can be in a notebook, a journal, a loose page which you file, a folder in your computer, or a note in your phone. Just make a permanent record of your dream, your goals, your values. Why? Why should we write? Because we forget. It's as simple as that. We forget our dreams. Parameters change. Details shift. Sometimes we think we remember, but what we remember is different from what it was. So write it down. Make a permanent record. I have a friend who says a short pencil is better than a long memory. I personally have a notebook for business ideas. At some point, as they take shape and mature, I move them to different notebooks per business. Currently, I have 3 of them running, waiting for financing to implement. And what I have kept doing is to beef up the memorialization of ideas, the dates of possible implementation, the budgets, every progress made on each one of those ideas. So write down. And I've used the word scribble for 2 reasons. First, to make it sound simple, because it is simple. And then the second reason, simply because it starts with an S. So number 2, and Pastor Angie talked about this, start where you are with what you have. Too many people are waiting for the ideal conditions to start the journey of performance, waiting to be in a better place, to save some more, to get a better job, to get more clarity, to gain some friends, to gather some resources. I tell you this, resources follow vision. Moses had a stick in his hands. He was in the desert. What do you have in your hands and where are you? Start with it and start where you are. You may be in the third world, in a third world country. Start there. You are in the first world and your purpose is to bring dignity to the poor. Start there. You have your own poors. You're an international entrepreneur who is resident in a small town in the back of Kenya. Start in that county. You see yourself rolling out hundreds of rental houses. Start with one. Start where you are and with what you have. Time is the one thing we all have. So that's one resource we can all use. Do something with it and keep improving with time as resources increase. A big office and a big ministry starts with a small office and a small ministry, for example. There's no such thing as ideal conditions. After all, conditions keep changing. So what are you waiting for? Number 3, step out and take the risk. We all know that famous Chinese saying that the journey of 1,000 miles starts with 1 step. The key word there is step, not as a noun, but as a verb. Step out. You have to be ready to take that first step. The first step encapsulates the taking of risk. We have to be ready to go beyond where we have gone before. You have probably heard about the expression crossing the Rubicon. Have you? The origin of this expression is in the days of Julius Caesar. Caesar has been appointed to a governorship of a region that ranged from South Gaul to Illyricum, but not Italy at the time. As his term of governorship ended, the Roman Senate ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome. He was explicitly ordered not to take his army across the Rubicon River, which was at that time a northern boundary of Italy. When on 10th January 49 BC, Caesar brought the 13th legion across the river, the Rubicon River, which the Roman government considered insurrection, treason, and a declaration of war on the Roman Senate. According to some authors, he is said to have uttered the phrase "Elea iata est," which means the die is cast, as his army marched through the shallow Rubicon River. This crossing of the Rubicon precipitated the Roman Civil War, which ultimately led to Caesar's becoming dictator and the rise of the imperial era of Rome. Today, the phrase crossing the Rubicon is a metaphor that means to pass a point of no return. And we need to pass that point in a lot of what we do. This is the same thing that happened years before with a young woman called Esther. Although a queen, she was not allowed to approach the king's presence without an express invitation from him. If she did so, she risked death, and only a kindly belated invitation, an extension of the scepter of the king, would prevent sure death. When our people, the Jews, were threatened with extermination, Esther, without an invitation, decided to approach the king to plead their case. In doing so, she accepted she may well have been on a suicide mission. She's reported to have said in Esther 4:16, talking to Mordecai, "Go, gather together all the Jews who are in Susa, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. And I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." Performance involves that sort of risk. We need more crossings of the Rubicon. We need more Esther saying, "I will go," no matter what happens. We need to step out of the rat, because otherwise nobody will get us out. So that's the third point. Step out and take the risk. Moving to point number 4, shift from strategy to execution. One of the things that keep people from starting and stepping out is the idea that they are planning and strategizing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with planning or with strategizing, because in fact, if you fail to plan, as we say, you do plan to fail. There's need for strategy so that you can define your vision, your mission, your purpose, your values, strategic objectives. You can prioritize and be organized. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, there's everything wrong with planning and strategizing if they become the reason you will never start. If all you do is serve the purpose of telling that you're not ready or fill you with fear, then that planning is unnecessary. In my opinion, there are too many strategic plans that never see the light of day. The reasons many organizations and people do not realize their potential is not lack of strategic plans, even if they're important and necessary, but that little gap between strategy and performance, which is called execution. While planning takes a few days, execution is lifelong in terms of the organization. I can tell you I've attended too many strategic planning meetings that yielded nothing but good documents, had practically no impact on business. And yes, they also yielded another thing. They yielded another retreat for their own review. Execution, ladies and gentlemen, is everything. Strategic plans define your potential, yet again, but execution is performance. If you're still planning and making a strategic plan 2 weeks from now, abandon it and go back to point 1 and point 2 above. Start with what you have and start where you are. Execute what you have. Your strategic plan does not have to be in color, glossy, well-bound. It can be handwritten with some deletions here and there, not bound and functioning. Do not let form delay you. I'm not underrating the power of a good strategy and the need for it. But if it disables you permanently, leave it out. Do not let too much time be taken to planning as a cover-up of fear and hesitance. Number 5, be strong and courageous. Moving from potential to performance needs some courage and a good dose of it too. Why do you need to be strong and courageous? Because stepping out can be challenging, can be discouraging, can lead to failure, and you need to be strong to withstand that. There's a reason why God keeps telling his people to be strong and courageous, because a place where we see this, and of course the place we see this a lot, is when Joshua was taking over from Moses. It was a daunting task. It could fail. The Israelites could rebel. He needed to be ready. He needed to be strong. Popular American actor Samuel Jackson is quoted as saying, "If you do not have courage, you may not ever have the opportunity to use any of your other virtues." So courage, I say, will help you to stand up and to stand out. Expect discouragement, to be strong and of good courage. Jitie moyo, jipe nguvu. That's what courage will do. And as we're running out, I want to share 2 more points only. So number 6 is sell out to buy in. Sell out to buy in. I want to share 2 short stories, one from the New Testament and one in the Old Testament. In Mark chapter 10, verses 17 to 22, a rich young man came to Jesus asking what he must do to inherit eternal life. He stated how well he was doing in keeping the commandments. Jesus gave him a look over and told him, go sell everything you have and give the money to the poor. Don't bring it to me. Come and follow me. The Bible records that he went away sad because he was very rich. He was not prepared to sell possessions to buy into the vision. He went away sad. Now in the Old Testament, 1 Kings 19 to 21, Elijah had been in ministry for a long time with his many highs and lows. God instructed him to get a successor and directed him to a man called Elisha, a plowman who was plowing with his oxen. When Elijah came to him and called him to be a prophet, Elisha did something dramatic. He excused himself for a moment to go say farewell to his parents. The Bible records the events thereafter. So Elisha left him, the Bible says, and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burnt the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set off to follow Elijah and became his servant. He slaughtered his oxen, burnt his ox plow, and cooked the meat with it. He had no cares remaining. He followed Elijah. He did not want disruption, distraction, and diversions. And this we can do without. The plan Bs of this world are what makes our plan A fail. If you expect to fail, you will fail. Selling out may mean changing residences, moving offices, quitting some jobs. Change your current position so that you can embrace the new like Elisha did. Number 7, I cannot overemphasize the need to secure ourselves in God as we step out on the journey of performance. Having known who we are and whose we are, having known our purpose, meaning what we are here for, it is important to remember God who created us and gave us our purpose is more invested in our performance than we even are. He believes in us even more than we believe in ourselves. So walk with him. Make him your partner in this journey of performance. As John Maxwell says, the only person who can stop you from being what God intends you to be is you. Why? Because God is willing for you to do it. I'll just mention the following. Number 8, secure a mentor or a role model. And Pastor Angie already talked about that. Number 9, set ambitious targets. Have a big dream. And number 10, redefine success. Success needs definition, as does failure. Why? Because what we often call failure is actually not failure. What we term it as, it's actually a way of success. You're told Thomas Edison tried tens of times a way of making the light bulb. He never thought he failed. Each time he felt he learned one more way not to do it. John Maxwell says again in his book, Being All That You Can Be, failure is not final. And sometimes what we consider failure is actually a learning experience. Very few people will repeat a mistake they made before, which means they learned. And John Maxwell has put it correctly, the famous statement we make, that some we win, some we lose. He says, some we win, some we learn. Failure is not final. What we call failure can actually be success turned upside down. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, you have heard. Go and do it. Get yourself unstuck. It is up to you. It depends on you. Thank you very much.